Welcome back, friends and family, to another episode of the Backdoor Cut Show. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone who's watching this live on this mostly cold, probably where you're at. Not for everyone, but in my case and Sam's case, very cold. Sunday afternoon. This is before the Kings game. Be getting a little afternoon recording session in. I'm Zach. Thanks for following along with us. With me today, I have Sam and Margarita Mason. Just had to throw that out there. Sam, how you been, man?
I'm good, man. It's an Arctic tundra here in Memphis, which is uncommon, as any Memphian knows. Currently, anywhere between 10 to 14 degrees, which is a temperature not often reached here. The snow is sticking, and we're supposed to get more flurries tonight. They're saying 8 to 12 inches, which obviously means like 3, but it will feel like 3 feet because everyone's going to act like the deli meat's gone. You see all the Twitter photos about the shelves and Kroger empty. I, however, went to Kroger earlier to get some strawberries and some chocolate to make chocolate-covered strawberries for my wife because I kind of forgot to get her anything else because we just got married and I've been like in this fray. Rookie mistake, but then I made chocolate-covered strawberries so they come in the clear, which is why I'm on a podcast right now. But happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Goodwill. That bought you goodwill. That's good.
I hope so. And then also, I want to point out the fact that recently you guys have been on this sports card thing, either digitally or now you're collecting tangible sports card. I am not. I feel like, like DeAnthony Melton on the bench next to Jaron and Justice, and they're kind of boys, and DeAnthony Melton's like sort of boys, but he doesn't really know exactly what's going on because he hadn't been on the bench with them all year. Feel a little bit ostracized, but that's okay because you guys enjoy it, and I enjoy being kind of like tenuously involved, but not having to pay money for any of it. So I appreciate that. Mason, what's going on?
Hey, man. Well, you say rookie mistake on, there's chocolate covered strawberries. I say veteran move. So, to each their own. Once you're married, things kind of settle down. It's all based on the preference of you and your lady. If you do it big for Valentine's Day, great. If you can keep it simple for Valentine's Day, great. I'm not here to impose any views on particular holidays, but just do what you and your lady feel is best. If that's going to brunch, having a couple margaritas and a carne asada burrito, do that. So you can come back and watch the Grizzlies, talk shop with the boys, pre-game show. Hope everybody's joining us on Twitter, YouTube, everywhere we're live. Shout out to Dash Radio. Zach, does Josh suck?
No, I'm not. We joked about that right before we came in. Ja has had a little bit of a rough spell. It's kind of, we're seeing that sophomore slump right now. I'm pretty sure not getting the calls. I mean, we could probably talk for like 15, 20 minutes about foul calls that Ja is and isn't getting. I don't want to talk that long, but I do have a few things I'd like to mention about that.
Go ahead.
So Ja, over the past week, was in the 100th percentile for guards in the short to mid range. 36% of his shots he took in that area. And then he also took 40% of his shots at the rim. So if you're counting with us, that's about 75% of his shots kind of in the paint or at the rim. So kind of right there in that close area.
We'll take that, right? We'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good spread for him. That's where you want him to be shooting. But he was only fouled on 12.5% of those shots, fouls called, I should say, which puts him only in the 57th percentile. So what I'm seeing is this guy's getting to the rack. He's getting close. He's drawing contact. We've seen it. Not getting the calls, which is something that he's got to work through. He's getting very visibly frustrated. And when he gets visibly frustrated, our team just kind of falls apart. So that's really the root of a lot of the issues, I think. Ja is not controlling his emotions quite well enough, and it's kind of trickling down to everyone else. Ja has, even this past week, he still is assisting at a very high rate, doing very well there. But as far as him scoring, just been really inefficient, and that really puts Memphis in a couple ruts throughout the game, which is really hard to overcome when we're short several very key role players coming off the bench. So we could start earlier last week. The Grizzlies played the Raptors.
But what are his raw numbers? We're talking about Ja. Let's stay on him right now. Okay. Just like his raw points and assists and field goal percentage, I guess.
Like over the past week, or
yeah, just over the past week that was just so bad that we.
So he shot in 103 minutes. He had 55 points, which was second on the Grizzlies behind Jonas, 1 point ahead of Dylan. He took 37 2-pointers, made 14, so that's a 38% field goal percentage, which we. Like I mentioned, he's taking a lot of those at the rim, so you need a higher percentage there. And then 4 of 12 from behind the arc. Not a whole lot of action there. That's just not his bread and butter at this point yet.
So, I mean, if 18 and 10 is the guy's floor, and he's just missing shots that he normally makes, these short mid-ranges, I'm willing to kind of chalk this up as to just a product of the schedule. We played a lot of games. He did re-injure that ankle after coming back right after we had came off the COVID break. So I think conditioning is an issue. That's why I was excited to see him shooting shots after the game, after the Hornets game. It wasn't because I thought he had a bad game. I think he needs more conditioning. That's why I was excited to see him back out on the court following a game in which he thought he didn't play well, even though he had, 15 and 11 in that Hornets win. So I just want to say I'm not worried about Ja. Sure, maybe we've had some floor games, but I think that should also excite Grizzlies fans like that it's not really going to get much worse than what we're seeing right now. He's missing bunnies that we know he's capable of making at a much higher clip, still getting to the rim, not getting calls. Those are going to come. I think the Lakers game, we had an argument that he got rooked. But I think he's still got a ways to go as far as, getting the LeBron superstar level cars. So I just want to put it out there that I'm not too worried about Ja.
No, the weird thing was too, sorry, Zach, but I looked at cleaning the glass and the foul drawing stats for Ja. He's actually in the 95 percentile for shooting fouled percentage, was the percentage of a player's shot attempts was he fouled on. So he's actually and granted, he's listed as a combo guard for some reason on Cleaning the Glass, which I found interesting. So it ranks him against other combo guards. For example, DeAnthony Melton is another combo guard on our teams, and whereas Tyus listed as a point, so he's not measured against other point guards. But as far as combo guards, he's drawing fouls at a 95 percentile rate, which is obviously fantastic. And he's also in floor foul percentage. How many non-shooting fouls does he draw? He's in the 93rd percentile. The issue is apparently he's only shooting 81% from the foul line, which puts him at a middling 47%. So he's converting it at 81 is respectable, obviously, but for your point guard, it's going to be taking a lot of free throws. You might want to see that creep over higher to 90. And then his and one percentage he's in the 14th percentile. So he actually isn't finishing a lot of his and one opportunities, which I think really gets him going. I mean, that gets any player going. That's an easy 3 points. And I think we see that leads to just like offensive spurts when there's an and one. Team really feeds off that and the energy too. He's not really doing well that year in that too. So surprisingly, drawing fouls at a very respectable clip for a combo guard league, but doesn't feel like it. Doesn't feel quite like he gets the superstar treatment yet. And the Lakers game is kind of like I think a sore thumb in the midst of like a pretty normal level of treatment that he gets. That was just a weird sort of deal. And we can't compare him to LeBron because LeBron gets the best whistle in the league. Obviously,
yeah, no fucking kidding. I mean, the whole Lakers team, honestly.
Yeah, and that was
evidenced by 2 players getting flop warnings when no players ever get flop warnings. 2 players from the same team in the same game. That's like the NBA being like, all right, sorry, Grizzlies fans, we heard you. Like, yeah, y'all had a case in that one. We fucked that up.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll get to that Lakers game too. But yeah, so maybe doing a little bit better foul wise than we thought. But what other stuff around? I mean, I'm not worried about Ja either. I kind of echoing Mason. Do you have any other thoughts on Ja, Zach?
Were those numbers? I just want to clarify for my own reputation. Those numbers were his season numbers. His fouls drawn.
Correct. His season numbers.
I was quoting his for this past week, so that's the disparity.
I was talking more like it just felt like for the whole season even. Yeah, I mean, it feels like we never won it. He doesn't get quite the whistle that we want him to get, but obviously we're incredibly biased. Yeah. So,
but something very good that if you look at his shot chart, something that Ja has always tried to do is get literally to the rim. He wants to dunk on people, put his hand in the cup. But this week I don't know if settled's the right word, for a lot more floater shots in that short range without trying to get and posterize someone, which I think is a shot personally that he needs to get much better at in order to be more effective. Because imagine if he had a floater as good as Tyus even, or a little bit of Mike Conley in there. That severely ups his game, because then folks have to respect him a lot more, and know that he's not just trying to get to the rim. That's the spot they need to get to, that he can score and cause the low man to come up and guard him a little bit, maybe create a little more dish off opportunities. So I'm not mad that he's taken those shots. He just has struggled to hit them so far.
Yeah, and I think he's proven that he can make those shots. So when he's scoring 44 at San Antonio, the floater's wet as can be, just falling through Mike Conley style. So, I think it's just a matter of time. And that's why I kind of point to the conditioning. Like he's just missing, like he's a half step off here and there. And I think he just needs to get back up to par. But the problem is, can you catch up when now you've got 4 games and 5 nights looming, and the schedule doesn't appear to be getting any easier for anyone, honestly, especially teams who have struggled with COVID. But let's go back to the top of the week. Raptors came into town, the Tampa Bay Raptors, and basically the Grizz played a good game until the fourth quarter. Or basically the last 3 minutes of the third quarter, and then the Raptors just completely mauled us. Ended up losing 128-13. I think we led 70-63 at the half, led by 3 after the third quarter, and basically Freddie, Van Fleet, Siakam, they just got it going, and we couldn't get any stops and couldn't score late. So, Sam, any thoughts from that Raptors game from you? I know JV had a big game. It was nice to, have the big fella back. 27-20. Oof. Hate to waste that, but just your overall thoughts, Sam.
Yeah, it was exactly that. It was 3 quarters of really good basketball and sort of fell apart in the fourth. The defense is an issue. I think we saw it really well. I think that we were initially playing great defense, even coming off that COVID break, but now it's like kind of regressed to maybe where everyone expected this team to be defensively. Sometimes you'll see spurts of it, like in certain quarters of games, you'll see the on the string sort of rotating defense, making every team take the tough shot that we want to. But it just fell apart. And I think it starts with not stopping the ball, the point of attack. And then the defense is immediate. We've talked about this a million times, right? But it's like, we're broken records because that's what keeps happening. Ja is like horribly defensively. And it's not like it's gotten to the point now where he's obviously not a rookie anymore. And he plays one of the hardest positions, and he obviously has to expend a lot of his energy facilitating our entire offense. So we give him a little bit of a pass. But he's like really fucking bad defensively. And I think it's getting to the point now where it's actually like hurting our team defense. Not quite Trae Young level bad, right? Like he still has the athleticism and he's tall enough and he has the capacity to play good defense, but I don't know whether he's just not conditioned. But for example, like he's on the court, we allow 15 more points. And then everyone, the opposing teams shoot 9.2% better. He's actually in the 1 percentile defensively. When he's on the court, in fact, he's actually one of the worst on-off examples in the league right now. The team objectively looks better both offensively and defensively when he's not on the court. That's obviously an issue of like lineups and injuries and all that sort of stuff. A credit to
our bench unit who comes in and usually dominates.
But yes. The defense stuff is what I wanted to focus on, and I think that we saw that again in the third or the fourth quarter of the Raptors game, because obviously Van Fleet, he kind of drew that assignment when they'd get a switch. Either he wouldn't be guarding him, he'd be guarding like whoever the Norman Powell, whoever they kind of put in at the off guard. But even that guard usually got going. The point is like it starts with Ja, I think, defensively when it comes to our defense, because Jonas ain't coming out of the paint, right? So first guard gets by Ja, he's in the paint, shit's happening, and they're going to get a good shot. And we just hope they miss it, right, at that point.
Yeah, our backcourt and perimeter defense was pretty tough. Like the Raptors hit 23s. If you go down their roster, Siakam had 5 of 8. Seemed like he couldn't miss for a minute. Van Fleet 4 of 7. Powell 6 of 9. We just got destroyed on that end of the court on our perimeter defense, which is honestly something that has seemed like it's plagued us for a while now. But we just can't let teams get hot against us like that, because granted, we turned it and flipped the script the very next game and had a crazy shooting night ourselves. But as you know, you can't beat teams when you're giving up that many threes to guys who have had rough years, like Siakam not having the best year offensively. Also tough. That's a matchup where you really miss Jaren, I think, because size-wise, quickness-wise, Jaren matches up very well with Siakam. You know, we just don't have that guy right now, and that's really tough. And you're just going to have to deal with that until if and when Jaren gets back on the court.
Yeah, and I think Taylor Jenkins pointed to something about the last 4 or 5 games. Teams were shooting a higher percentage against the Grizzlies than against any other team in the league the last 4 or 5 games. So it wasn't just a matter of, you know, bad defense. Teams were making more shots than normal, like league average. So, and that's part of it. But I think the concerns with Ja's defense, especially when Ja and JV are together, I thought the fourth quarter of the Raptors game, despite JV having his game of the year, really showed like the two differences between him, because Freddie just went to that pick and roll and carved us up. And, you know, to Sam's point, JV's kind of sitting back in the paint, and that allows that. The starting lineup numbers with Ja and Valanciunas and basically Kyle and Dylan and your choice of Grayson or Bane are really good. But the overall numbers with Ja are worrisome. I agree. So I don't have much else on the Toronto game. They shot 54% from downtown, 20 of 37. We shot 33%, 13 of 39. That's your game. and they had 26 points off of turnovers. And we only had 13, and the turnovers we only had one more than Toronto. So 3-pointers and turnovers, that'll do it. But we stayed home, and we had Charlotte come to town and got a big win. So anyone want to introduce that game, how that one started off and how it went?
This is the classic example that they talk about in the league, where there's 5 games that you're just going to win no matter what in the season. There's 5 games you're going to lose no matter what, because the other team had they're one of their 5 games they were going to win. And then the other, 72 in this season, 62 are the ones that like matter, the ones that can win based on your play. This is an example of a game we're going to win kind of no matter what, based on the literally franchise record setting amount of threes, 23 made threes in the game. It was like nothing I've ever really watched in Grizzlies basketball, because
it's never happened.
Literally has never happened. But you know, obviously the grit and grind there was not replete with 3-point attempts or makes. So that was weird to watch, almost, for them to go down like that. It was just a case of our offense out offense then. But we didn't necessarily defend particularly well. They actually shot really well from 3 as well. They just didn't make as many. Turnovers played a part there, but it was an example of one of those nights in the NBA. LaMelo Ball making his debut in the FedEx Forum. That was kind of exciting to see him and Ja, 2 of the young guards in the league. LaMelo's having a kind of a surprisingly great season based on how everyone thought he was going to play. He's pretty exciting to watch. Some of his full court passes when he rebounds the ball and then kind of like football throws it to the other end of the court's exciting. Hayward's having a resurgent season there. I like the Hornets. They're a fun team. But it was just one of those nights they just ran into a buzzsaw in Memphis. And what's funny is that I think this sets like that weird tone for LaMelo. Like when you come in and get the shit beat out of you like that, like I wonder if it's one of those things where you just think like, oh, Memphis, there's a really good shooting team, because you can't watch every game every night. Is that like what he thinks of us now? Like, does he think we just like are like the Warriors of 2015? That's just always interesting to me. But does anyone have any thoughts on that Hornets game?
Go ahead, Mason.
Well, yeah, I mean, so your boy Dylan Brooks held Gordon Hayward to 15 points.
Hey, man. Team defense, bro. It's drop defense. Switchability.
It really was. And I thought Desmond Bane also, this was probably his best defensive game. I think this was his second start. And the starting lineup, like I just mentioned, with him has been really good. I think been outscoring teams by 10 points per 100 possessions when he's in the starting lineup. And basically there's no fall off when Grayson starts. So either one of those guys, it's a pleasure to have, two guys who can get in there and just stroke it from downtown and aren't scared to shoot it. And I thought this game was indicative of that because Grayson started off hot. He had, 12 points in the first quarter, all from the left wing. Like they were just letting him stand there and catch and shoot. That was dope. And then you get into the third quarter, and Kyle hits 4 in a row from the same corner. Also dope.
Yeah. the dopest, some might say. That was fucking crazy.
And in the fourth quarter is, the old guy, Dylan Brooks, our most tenured player, hitting the 3 to break the franchise record. But helping us get there is Desmond Bain, like the 2 DBs just trading threes in the fourth quarter. And it was just so fun because it was so much different than like a Mike Miller performance where it's one player. It's just like everyone's getting a piece of the pie and threes are falling in from all over. Xavier Tillman's hitting, like big threes out of timeouts or whatever. And then the best part about this game was the third quarter defense. We finally got back to the defense that we had seen throughout the winning streak. And that just because before that, it was just like the Raptors game. Like both teams making shots, just kind of laissez-faire NBA basketball. Then third quarter, we locked up and shots kept falling for us. And, we went on to win. So, Zach, your thoughts?
I mean, when Kyle Anderson hits 6 threes, that sets you up
6 of 8.
pretty good. I mean, last year, if Kyle Anderson had taken 8 threes in a game, I probably would have just turned it off.
In a week?
Yeah, in a week. I'm like, that would be rough. That would
he's already beaten his career, season career 3-point made. He's beaten 20 games.
Yeah.
So that is an example of the let it fly mentality that Jenkins has installed. I don't know what is, but everyone talks about his fucking shoulder, man. But it really is a thing, apparently. I mean, he's catching that thing. There was one 3 that was wild. It was like a jaw dish to the corner, and he caught it basically in his shooting stroke and immediately flicked it in. He didn't even bring it down whatsoever. And at that point, I think it was his third 3, so he was just on a heater, and there was just
he looked like Klay Thompson.
Yeah, it was wild, dude. And they were just as perplexed. Obviously, no one knows Slow-Mo as a shooter. You kind of wish that game would have been on national TV just for the comedic element of that. But anyway, yeah, it was fun. It was fun to watch. But again, defense wasn't great, so it's you just outscore the other team. There were certain elements for sure, but it's not like we blew them out necessarily. It wasn't 130-92 or something. It was. They still scored 110 or 108 or so. So
yeah, and they actually outshot us. They shot 55% from the field, and we shot 50, and they were 48% from 3, and we were 47. The big key was we had 26 second chance points off of 19 offensive rebounds, and they only had 8 second chance points. So
yeah, we were great in
transition and Gorgie, yeah. So that was a fun game, and like I said, that third quarter of us clamping down was really huge.
Yeah, very much so. Fun to watch, and it was a win amidst didn't that break the 4-game losing streak?
Yeah, and they were hot. They were kind of like the league darlings. They're kind of taking over us as the league passed. We must watch LaMelo. Not it was Ja last year. Now it's LaMelo.
Mm-hmm.
And rightfully so. I mean, he's been playing really well. LaMelo has been shooting really well. Surprisingly, not something that he was drafted on or scouted on, but the week prior when I was researching, he had hit 50% of his threes in that previous week. So, I mean, I was kind of concerned about that matchup because Ja had been struggling recently.
Yeah.
Also helped Devontae Graham not being there, being out with an injury. He's been really good for Charlotte again this year. He's back in a rhythm. So, that kind of helped as well, but everyone got injuries, so I ain't feeling bad for a team.
Yeah, and I guess we should kind of hit on Rozier had 34 points, so he got off on
Here
us.
He got his.
Yeah, Dylan also had a good game. He had 20 on 8 of 13. Ja had 15 and 11, 5 turnovers though, so definitely not a great game. LaMelo had 17 and 5. But just, all around a good game. Bain had a career high 18 points before his grandmother passed away, and he's missed the Lakers game, which we'll talk about next. And I guess he's missing tonight as well, right, in Sacramento?
I think so. Based on social media, it seemed like he was still in Indiana back home. He's from Richmond, Indiana, so it seemed like he was still there. At least as of last night. And this is his great grandmother, actually.
Great grandmother, okay.
Who raised
him?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Which is, and she was kind of went viral, and when she was on the couch with him when he got drafted, she kept asking him like, "How's he gonna like Boston?" And he kept trying to explain the trade shit, and it was really awesome. That video is really great if anyone hadn't checked it out. But she's like the sweetest woman, you could tell. Sad. Prayers up to Desmond.
So with Bane gone due to personal reasons, we also didn't mention that DeAnthony Melton got hurt last week against the Pacers. Some type of shoulder injury. I don't think it says shoulder soreness on the injury reports. Looked like a dislocated shoulder to me. Just the way he kind of went limp and immediately went off the court. So we haven't had Melton. We haven't had Brandon Clark, calf injury, I believe. I think he's questionable for tonight's game. I haven't looked at the injury report, so I'm not sure. Right. And then we're still missing the two-way guys, Killian Tilly, Sean McDermott. Jonte Porter is in the gubble with the hustle.
Gubble.
And still I stole it from someone, so I can't take credit from that. It wasn't me. And then, still no Winslow or Jaren Jackson Jr. So just want to kind of set the stage that the Grizzlies have 9 players. And as frustrating as these losses are, like, I don't think we are as frustrated with the outcome of the games as the process to the outcome, like especially as we get into this Lakers game. But even with the Raptors game, like we were right there, we were right in it, and then it was just boom, we blow up and lose. So it's like we know these guys have what it takes to compete, and just when they don't, it kind of hurts a little more.
Yeah, and you want to see Ja improving, right? You want to see your young star like getting better with each game. It hasn't really gone that way. In fact, it's gone the opposite way. There was an ankle injury in there, but that's sort of what you're rooting for is the game within the game, like all your young guys improving, but none of them can stay on the fucking court. And that just sort of exacerbates the whole like, damn, are we always going to be hurt thing? When you got Jaren's missing time, Justice hasn't suited up yet. It's you want to see it the other way. You want to see the guys getting chemistry together. You don't want to see guys like that you don't necessarily see being a large part of this team as it enters what we think is like the best years. You don't want to see them being the best players on the team, and like maybe raising your floor, but not resulting in any wins. But it has been the process itself has been frustrating, as you alluded to. I think that's a really good way to put it.
All right, so let's move into I would say for me easily the most frustrating game.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to lead with that because this is like the prime example.
Man,
I mean, it did seem too good to be true. Memphis shooting, almost 60% in the first quarter, and the Lakers shooting 28. You had to feel that was going to even itself out, especially with the caliber of players that the Lakers have on their roster. The first quarter was just wild. Second quarter hung in, and then third fell off a cliff, and it was just over from there. Memphis just could not recover. I mean, it was one of the more frustrating games of the season, I think.
Yeah. I mean, started off on a tear. Like we were up to 22-2. Yeah, it was exactly. Like 11-0 when Dillon got the half court steal and went and jammed it home, and they called a timeout. And Valanciunas was hooping, and we end the first quarter is 31-16, and then they make the run in the second quarter, but like we're keeping them at bay. Like every time they cut it to 10, Taylor Jenkins is turning into Popovich and calling a timeout, and then draws up a play, and Xavier Tillman gets a corner three, and then the next time he calls a timeout, Dylan Brooks which has become a patented positional play calling for Taylor Jenkins, the baseline out of bounds play. If a team scores more off baseline out of bounds plays than the Grizzlies, point them to me, because the amount of wide open dunks we get, and this one was Dylan Brooks dunking and unfortunately yelling, and I think LeBron James thought he was yelling in his face, and
he might have been
woke the king up.
I tweeted, I was like, if there's one person that doesn't need to be doing that to a specific person, it's that scenario that we just saw. Like LeBron MJ meme took that personally. Don't poke the bear. If he's having a sleepy night, let him sleep. Like, let's just get
Yeah,
the
dude.
game over with.
We were
Don't
about
poke
like
the bear,
we were
Dylan.
5 or 6
dumbass.
more points away from him being like, fuck it, and just like taking the night off. You know, like
the white flag was there. It was coming.
Dude, he was like, you know what? Like, actually, I could probably catch the limo back to my house at halftime. I don't even have to actually sit on the bench for the whole game. Like, you know, the kids are going to be being brawnier, watching like this Netflix show. It's going to be great. And instead, we woke his ass up, and you know, he ends up like, he really like. He doesn't like the Grizzlies, man. Like, I feel like we always get kind of chirpy LeBron every time we play them. And it might be the fact that like that he made that joke last time, like too many young kids in suits on the bench. Three on her to found down everyone and be like, look, like let's play our game. We can't do anything about the calls. Like we just got to play our game, and then we got let it get in our feelings in the third quarter. I think we sort of collapsed and stopped playing Grizzlies basketball, and that was what caused. I mean, I'm not saying we would have won, but if we just kept playing, but the fouls happen as they may, and then at least like give ourselves the best chance to win. But we let it affect us like Grizzlies Twitter was. We were all fucking pissed. They were getting calls, and the players were like almost like reading our tweets, you know, like live, like and getting equally as mad. They can't do that. They just got to play. But what other? I mean, I didn't have like any stats from this game, but it was fairly miserable to watch. Classic example, getting rooked.
Yeah,
and
but I mean, going into halftime, we're up 59-46, and that's the biggest deficit the Lakers have faced all season. So, you take that, and then you come into the third quarter, and I thought the most deflating play was Kyle got a steal from LeBron, like kind of right at the top of the key, took it coast to coast, does his Euro step, finishes with a funky shot. He's like fading away, but it bounces, and it's an and one. Because he didn't put the ball back on the floor. He should have been continuation. And you remember, we didn't get the continuation because LeBron said no. And from that point on, it was just like, all right, this game's over. Like, LeBron said that doesn't count. And, like, I don't even know why we're here. Do y'all remember that play? Like, it was the cool-ass and one. And everyone's like, yeah. And LeBron's like, nope. And everyone, it's just like, okay, that doesn't count. Like, why? He didn't dribble again. It's clearly an and one. And, I love LeBron, but from that point on, it was just the Lakers took over. And, I mean, we were Kyle Kuzma was killing us on the offensive rebounds.
Right. I'm just thinking about like that. That's the thing we could have controlled, right? Like once we got in our feels, we started letting Kuzma off like 3 straight offensive rebounds. And, like, you just can't do that, man. That's not winning basketball.
Yeah, Marc Gasol hitting open threes, which, I mean, you'll live with, and he hasn't hit them all year, but he hit like 2 or 3 against us, and I was like, come on, Marc. Like, and I felt like Marc tried to save us at the end. He got a technical because Taylor Jenkins wouldn't. He was like, somebody's got to get a technical for this Grizzlies organization, so I'm going to do it. Right, so I appreciate that, Marc. You stuck up for us, and Taylor Jenkins would not. He didn't challenge the offensive interference call on Kuzma, one of his said 5 offensive rebounds, which was clearly, above the cylinder, and he touched it. And in my game notes, I've got it in a red pen. Jenkins has to get a T because everything was going against your guys. You can't make a basket, and you're playing against Anthony Davis, who's quietly climbed to 35 points. It didn't even feel like he scored 35 points against us. And everything was going against us. And I just feel like at that point, Jenkins could have done more to make sure his team knew he had their back.
This is the NBA coaching. There's so many different layers to this. And it's like, we know Jenkins is a brilliant basketball mind. Like, we know that his guys love him. We know they love playing hard for him. We know they buy into what he does. I mean, that you referenced the under the basket, inbounding offensive plays that we score on. Like, we've gotten great shit. You know, we run good shit and we buy into what he wants to do. But the thing he lacks is the intangible personality thing that like the great ones eventually either develop or have already had. That they get fucking pissed at the refs. They work the refs. You end up becoming kind of like a PR representative for your players live in game. Doc Rivers is quite possibly the best example of this in the history of the NBA. I mean, he is constantly talking to the referees. He's not always mad at them. He's just chirping at them. He's keeping his voice in their ears. He's just making sure they understand what's going on. He would remind the referees at every single foul call, come on, guys, like they shot 20, we shot 8. You know, they shot 25, we've shot 8. Like he would be like constantly reminding the refs. I'm not saying Jenkins wasn't doing that because obviously we can't hear what he's doing, but that's the sort of stuff you have to do. You have to be like the voice for your guys. And then when it redlines to the point that it got to, as Mason says, you got to take the technical. That ends up becoming the greatest coaching decision of all, getting ejected from the game. You know, that's almost as good as drawing up like a insanely great play that gets a wide open 3 for Grayson Allen at his elbow spot that he loves. Like that matters. And that's the thing that Jenkins needs to improve on. He did improve the challenging. He's done that a lot more, but it's clear that he's not a comfortable guy with adversity. Like he's not like a confrontational type personality. He's a really nice dude. He's brilliant. He's really nice. The press conferences, like, but he's not one guy. He's not going to be an asshole. Like that's just not his personality. So he's going to have to like, that's going to be uncomfortable for him, but he's got to learn to do it. And this is a potentially winnable game otherwise.
I mean, literally that situation you're talking about happened to Memphis earlier in the week with Toronto. Nick Nurse gets ejected from the game, and then Toronto's like, oh, yeah, let's win the game. Let's just take it over. Sure, let's go.
Yeah, Nurse is the other guy that's
let's do it for you. It's your turn, coach.
Yeah. He does the Hoosiers thing, you know, like and then Gene Hackman hands over the plays to Dennis Hopper, and then Dennis Hopper wins the game. But yeah, that stuff, it matters, and that's the next stage of evolution for a young coach to figure that out. And then also we need veterans to tell Ja, like, dude, don't get mad. Get happy, right? Like know the officials, know what their names are, like talk to them. Like you got to be like, hey, you know, just want to remind you that like anytime I'm driving, like Steven Adams is putting his elbow in my ribs, just like watch out for that. And like that's the sort of shit that like Chris Paul says the whole game, like he's working the ref the whole game, and it pays dividends as it has for Chris Paul's entire career. And that's almost just as important in the NBA as like being able to like do what Ja does night after night out, like his athleticism, his court vision, that's all really valuable. But in order to like reach what we know he can do, he's got to learn that element of the game. And maybe it's not going to come naturally, but like this Lakers game was like show it in film room of like the PR of the NBA and the fouls and the officiating, the relationship between players and officials.
Zach, from the past week, are there any stats or anything that have stuck out to you that you wanted to highlight, or just any notes from the week that we might not have hit on that you wanted to point out that you think are important?
So we talked a lot about Ja, of course. On a more positive note, if I had to put this as a section in recent, I don't know, it's not pop, it may be pop culture. I don't know what exactly it falls into the pop culture bucket. This would be my Diamond Hands. My Diamond Hands segment would be Grayson's performances this week. So he got in the starting lineup at the end of the week with Bane being out. But for the week, he had an effective field goal percentage of 74%. 84% of his shots were threes, which is like great to just have that guy on the wing who can drill threes. Shot 50% on those threes. And then points per 100 shots, he was 160. What in comparison, so Ja was like 92, 93, and anywhere kind of above that 100 is where you start to get into really positive territory. So 160 points per 100 shots is like crazy good territory, you know, top tier. Obviously not sustainable, but just want to say Grayson had a really hot week. So and a lot of the lineup numbers favor him starting, which is maybe something, maybe not something that you would think after like the eye test, but he is in a lot of those more high performing lineups that Memphis has. So he gets my Diamond Hands for the week.
And that's a great pick. And I think from what we saw in the bubble and what we've seen this season, when Grayson and Ja are both on the court together, their chemistry is unmatched. And it's not to take anything away from Desmond Bane because he has been great too. And I don't care which one of them starts. I think it makes more sense to start Bane because of the long-term upside. He could probably be a better defender, but that's not to say that I think Grayson has been a bad defender.
Right.
Sure, he has, physical limitations, but I don't think it's Troy Daniels level of physical limitations. And I think he adds more as a cutter. So when we see the problem with Grayson is sometimes he gets tossed out there in these lineups with like Conchar, Tyus, Tillman, and Jang, and it's like we just give the ball to Grayson and hope he can score. And like,
that's not his game.
Yeah,
he can't do that.
But when he's with Ja, he's really good. And I would say right now he's more advanced than Bane on both ends. Just being able to handle the ball and stuff. But I have no issues with Bane starting. But more so, I have no issues with either one of them getting as many minutes as possible every game that they're available, like 25 plus for both of them.
Yeah. Do we have any numbers on? I think my favorite lineup, at least right now, with D'Anthony out, is probably like Ja, Grayson, Bane, Kyle, and JV. I mean, that seems like a lineup that should have played a lot of minutes recently. I don't know if it has, but it seems like something that would make sense. Kyle obviously better at the 4 when he can play the Duggar spot. That corner 3 is good. When you have two dead-eye shooters like that, of which Ja is familiar with, particularly with Grayson, I mean, that seems like exactly the kind of game that Ja wants to play, right? It opens up the paint for him to get to the rim. The problem was, I think, when a lot of guys defend that, they end up forcing the Grizzlies to make the right basketball play, and it's Ja kick out to Bane in the corner, swing to Grayson at the wing. They've helped on him, and then it's swing to Jonas Valanciunas at the top of the key, and he's wide open. And then Jonas does that slow ass pump fake, and then his defender's already recovered on him. And then it's either he shoots it, which isn't a great shot, a defended top of the key Jonas Valanciunas 3, or he drives it, and we're right back where we were. Like it negated the Ja drive at the beginning of the possession, and it's like that stinks. Which is why I'm kind of like over Jonas, even though like I understand he raises our floor, but it's clear we can't get to where we want to get.
Oh, I'm glad that you mentioned Jonas.
And while you're looking that up, Zach, just our 2-man combos that have played at least 85 minutes together that have the best net rating: Jang and Melton and Tillman, Tyus and Melton. So Melton in your top 3. So if you don't think Melton's important to this team, then we're not watching the same game. But 4th is a Grayson Allen and Desmond Bane duo, which has played 120 minutes and is outscoring teams by 18.2 when those two are on the court together. Let's see. There's not a lot with Ja up here at the top. The first one actually with Ja is Ja and JV. Who played 173 minutes together and outscoring teams by 7 points. JV and Grayson are pretty good. JV and Bane are pretty good. So it points to what you said, Sam, that Ja, JV, and those 2 shooters on the wing, and probably a Kyle Anderson type. Even better if you have, Jaren Jackson Jr. to toss in there.
That guy, it'd be even better. I mean, that's the dream. The dream lineup is Ja and 4 shooters. Right? It's maybe you slide Jaren to the 5. I know a lot of people don't like that. But you basically have your power forward be the defender of the most modern center, and kind of Jaren just roves and plays weak side help block defense. And then you just basically have like the paint's fully open, man. Like imagine if Jaren's at the top of the key for the swing instead of JV, right? Like that's like a whole different game entirely. I don't know how you're stopping that team from scoring in droves, but again, it requires our guys to be healthy.
All right, Zach, go on your JV diatribe here.
No, just a couple
of things
I want to point out. You guys.
Yeah, you write an article before the season saying, hey, this guy's average as hell, and then you get mad at us for quoting said article.
I mean, that was – dude, things change from year to year.
Here's the thing. Zach in our group text was just wanted to trade JV. Like he was just like, let's get this guy out of here. And then Mason and I were like, hang on, Zach. Let's like see he'll come back.
Reel me back in, guys.
Great screens for Ja. Like he's really effective. I really don't want him to. He's whatever. Like he's Lithuanian. Really love the country as far as Eastern Europe goes. Like so, we were able to step in and be like, come on, dude, let's see this out. But now you give us your JV stats.
Yeah. Then you guys had to hack in my Twitter account and post positive things about him. I got it. I appreciate that. Thank you for helping me save face on that.
Might have been the other way around. I don't remember. Like I said, I had some margaritas.
Yeah. Some people wanted JV trade and some people defended him. I'm just saying that those three people were us. I don't remember exactly what.
The waters are murky.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who can say?
Okay, so according to PvP stats, Morant shoots 11% better. We talked earlier about shots at the rim, shots in the paint. So that's a critical part of Morant's game. Shoots 11% better at the rim with JV on the court. He also shoots at the rim 3% more frequently with JV on the court. JV's numbers with a lot of the other guys are mixed. So not necessarily as telling. Didn't really see as trends as big as that, but a little on one hand, it's surprising because you would assume that JV would be clogging the paint up down there and bringing on that help side defender, the other center, to protect the rim with Ja driving. But on the other side, Sam, I'm glad that you mentioned JV screening and his chemistry and the amount of minutes that he's played with Ja. That seems to be a positive factor for Morant, at least. Can't say so much about the rest of the team, but Ja needs JV at least at this point in the game.
And I think that's just a product of where we currently are with the roster. When I was singing, JV we can trade him and Xavier Tillman is the center of the future. That was definitely premature. And I do owe Valanciunas an apology for that because he has came back and been nothing but absolutely phenomenal since he's been back from his COVID break. He started the season pretty shitty, JV. I got to say that to you. And I still don't think he is the answer for the team long-term at the center position, which is what Sam was alluding to just a minute ago. So, but definitely appreciate him now. And we can't win games without him at this point, I don't think. But yeah, we'll see how it goes moving forward. Man, back to the Grizzlies and the foul shots, and Sam, I know you were on we're tops in the league in points in the paint or near the top, and not getting foul calls, and per cleaning the glass, we're 18th in the league in percentage of shots taken at the rim, but like other teams have 50% more fouls called at the rim than we do. And I know we are taking a lot of short mid-range stuff, but are we getting rooked, Sam? Are we getting rooked? How do you really feel? We're at the end of the show. We got 6 minutes left. So how do you really feel? Are we getting rooked once again? Do we need Fizdale to come back and give a press conference?
Yes, to all of that. I think it'd be awesome if Fizdale came back, like as some sort of steward of the team, because they ain't doing shit else except for showing up on like Get Up every now and then and be like, I talked to D-Wade. He loves Ja. Like he'd be like, he basically like frames all of his opinions through his conversations with D-Wade. But like, so yes, we're getting rooked, and this is the statistical evidence. Rooked is such a term that no one knows what the fuck it means. I mean, everyone knows what it means, but you can't like quantify it. But this is it. Like
what a Memphis term, by the way. Like I don't think anyone else uses rooked as a verb. Like, man, we getting rooked.
I thought it was. I thought that was Fizdale. Like, I thought he didn't coin that. I thought that was what's known in the league by coaches when that happens, right? Like when you rookies like just don't get calls. That they should, but
I don't think they take it to that national level. So I think it's got a forever tie with Memphis. Like, Memphis ain't getting rooked.
But I would love to even take this a step further and like see what it's been in years past. But Memphis is not going to get the calls that the Lakers are going to get. Just if you like, no matter who's on the teams, and that's just it's discouraging to watch the team and know that maybe you don't have an equal chance at winning a game if this is the case. But if the fouls in the paint, I mean, the presumption there is right that most foul calls or most fouls are made. I don't know. Like, most people are fouled when they're in the paint, like offensively, because that's just the point of contention where like the defenders come in and swarm, and like most fouls aren't called off ball or on the perimeter. Those are considered really bad fouls if you're just like fouling a guy on the perimeter. So the theory is if you're like in the paint a lot scoring, then theoretically you should be shooting a lot of foul shots too, just because of the nature of NBA defenses. And we just don't. We actually score a ton in the paint. We don't shoot a lot of free throw attempts. There's a lot of different factors here, right? But that's like kind of the very that's the 10,000-foot view. Like if I'm like putting together my portfolio of conspiracy theories to mail to Adam Silver, like that's the first stat on the first page. And no one's been able to be like, yeah, that doesn't hold any water yet. No one's like, that's bullshit. Here's why. There's something to it, man. And like the Pacers are also at the top of the league in points in the paint, and they don't shoot a lot of free throws. And you look at, they're a similar small market team. Like they don't have really exciting players necessarily. The Brogdons, the Sabonises aren't necessarily like selling tickets on ESPN, but I don't know. This is all just me being conspiracy Sam, but like it fucking sucks. Like it's just, and if it's a thing, it sucks. And that's why superstars matters, right? If Ja gets to the point where we think he's going to, and then Jaren gets like to an all-star status, that kind of like changes the thought around the team. Like any team can get calls, like if they have the right guys, right? It's not like the Mavs are like thought of as some like crazy awesome friend. They had Dirk and that they won a title, but like they're not like some huge market. But they got Luka, right? He gets calls, like, and it's just one of those things that you just like build a culture around. But we'll see going forward. Do we want to look at the week ahead and sort of discuss before we record next Sunday how we think we're going to turn out? Or any other thoughts from the week that was?
So one thing kind of falls into both categories real quick. So far in the season, Memphis had a pretty tough schedule. Basketball Reference has them as the 8th hardest schedule so far to date, which is pretty tough. They're also 14th in SRS. I forget what the acronym is, but what that does is it combines strength of schedule with the kind of with point differential to predict kind of where you stand in the league. And that's usually a pretty good representation of where you should fall, kind of extrapolate over the season. They're 14th in that. And really right now, that feels good. Average team, which if you're missing your second best player for this far in the season with the 8th strength of schedule and you're an average team, I mean, I think you can hold your head up high with that. And we got a little bit of a break kind of this week. Tonight we start with the Kings. They're 12-13. Quick thoughts on them. We get to see Halliburton in action. He gets a lot of folks are really high on him since he's been drafted. Does a lot on both sides of the ball. Obviously, Buddy Hield. So that should be De'Aaron a pretty exciting.
That's always the Ja versus De'Aaron, like the kind of the Amin.
Thanks, Amin El Hassan.
Yeah, who said that De'Aaron Fox or John Moran is who De'Aaron Fox thinks he is, and then that thing went viral, and then now De'Aaron Fox is playing at like an objectively all-star level, like 32 points a night and 8 assists sort of stuff. So he's only one of the few guys that can stay in front of Ja. This is always like Verno's thing, and he clearly like I'm the fast athletic point guard. You have to at least get over me before you can be anointed.
Yeah.
And I get why you take that personally. So he's another kind of thing to look for in this Kings game. The schedule is important, though. I'm glad you brought that up because we have played an incredibly hard schedule.
Yeah.
And we're still like almost 500, right? Like with crazy injuries. That matters. I mean, that's better than we thought, for sure.
I mean, Memphis played the Lakers 3 times already, for crying out loud. Fox and Bagley are actually listed as questionable for tonight. So kind of hope they both get to play, see what happens there, but something to keep an eye on, as you mentioned.
And if there's no Fox, then this team should win the game. The Grizzlies should beat the Halliburton-led Kings.
The Kongs.
Even with only nine players, I feel like that's a game we should go in there and win. It's an NBA game, so anything could happen. They still have Buddy Hield and maybe potentially some better players, but That's a game I feel like if they don't have the head of the snake in De'Aaron Fox, we should win.
Barring like some crazy 3-point night where it's like, barring that. But if it's,
But man, after today, so the Grizzlies play 5 games.
A lot of games.
7 nights. You got Sacramento tonight, and then you come home Tuesday. You have the Pelicans on TNT. Big opportunity. Never beat the Pelicans, so
ever.
Maybe we get some players back. Maybe Zion doesn't, score 25 and not miss.
We need Justice that night, man. Come back, Justice. Like,
he's halfway.
I don't even care what you do. You don't have to do anything else. Just guard Zion. Just be tough on Zion. And like, come on, man. Like, this is what you've been doing. This is what you've been training for. Like, I need you. Yeah.
And then so the very next night we got a home back-to-back against the Thunder, towards the bottom of the standings in the West as the Western Conference standings are filling out, but still a tough out every night. Then you got the Pistons on Friday, who just, took the Lakers to overtime 2 straight games, and then Phoenix again, who's going to be hungry for blood after we beat them on MLK Day, and who is now playing really well.
They're playing really well.
Just a brutal week, but you gotta win some of these games.
Yeah, the Thunder too. It's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's played incredibly well too. Like I think that him and De'Aaron are clearly above John, the All-Star pecking order right now. I mean, and even like I can't argue, right? Like statistically, it's the case, and also they're making their teams win, and being crucial components to those wins. So yeah, how do we think we do if so? And that's also 4 games in 5 nights, by the way. Pelicans, Thunder, Pistons, Suns is 4 games in 5 nights, which is real tough for a team that's already injured. So you really hope you get some reserves coming back to help you out. How do we feel we go in those 5 games, culminating in the Suns on Saturday? Are we looking at? Do we need 2 of these wins, Mason? Do we need at least 1? We can't go for 5. And if so, who are those wins coming from?
I'm thinking we get 2, and I think 1 comes in Sacramento, and then we get 1 of OKC, Detroit. I think we get 2. We need to stay in the race with all these teams, basically staying around 500 with Sacramento, New Orleans, and a couple other teams right there. But we need 2, and I'm hoping for 3. But I'll say we get 2.
That's fair, Zach. What do you think?
That's where my head's at as well.
And your heart?
All head, heart, grit, and grind. Says 2 and 3.
Okay. Zach, you want to take us out unless you got any other thoughts?
Nope, that's all. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to another episode of the Backdoor Cut Show. Go check out our website, the-barnburner.com. Listen to us on Dash Radio's Nothing But Net channel. And until next time, we'll see you next week. Go Grizzlies.
Let's go.